one of the things that is part of the vision is that, that on big tides, on king tides, the salt water will come right up here. You can see that. You can see exactly where it comes to by the vegetation type. So here we have Pangola grass and here we have marine couch. So the tide line is right here. So that's a blessing. This marine couch is wonderful feed for the cattle at certain times of the year because it's irrigated by nature. The tide comes in, it goes green, it's got minerals, the cattle love it. The downside is that if you let the cattle in here at the wrong time of the year, they walk across these muddy areas and the mud's wet. So that tide sweeps in and it sweeps back out again. And the concern is that the fine sediment loads that we're concerned about with the reef, that's a potential cause of it. That's a source of it. So what we're aiming to do here with some of that funding is to isolate these areas and only let the cattle into these areas at very select times. A la when the tides are small and the weather is dry. So when that happens, that mud won't get churned up. This ground here won't get pugged. The cattle can get the nutrients from this. I can utilise it, and then they're gone. And we've had as small as impact on nature that we can possibly have. So there's that win-win. I want my cake and eat it too. What we're looking at here, Carlos, is the cattle have been in this paddock here for about 10 days. So this is marine couch that they love. They love camping down here. And you can see these areas here. Like they've actually, see this is where they pull tufts out and haven't eaten. So, you know, you have to be careful in managing cattle on this. You can see here, unfortunately it rained while they were in here. The tides were small, but it rained while they're in here, which made it just muddy enough to start to pug it. But in the past, when it's been wet, that's a sea of footprints, and you can see how it disrupts the ground. And when that's fine, and the tide comes in and out, that's sediment loss. So that's what we're trying to avoid. And we're doing that successfully just over here. So let's go and have a look over here. So Carlos, this is back to that 32-inch high single wire, nice and easy, cheap to erect. If you look along the fence line here, you'll see the effects of grazing, 10 days worth of grazing and no grazing. And Carlos, the other thing that I like about this fence, so it extends right down the length of this, I call it the scar. It extends right down into that tree line and round the corner up over to those trees in the distance there, is that if you look out on the exposed mud flat there, no tracks. So, that sediment in there is in a lot better position to stay where it is than if it's pugged up and heavily walked on. All right, so this is one of our watering points, Carlos, and they've been very successful. What it's done is it's enabled us to cut these paddocks down. And especially what I like about it is that the funding extended to mitigating one of my hassles that I have putting fixed water troughs in, because what happens is inevitably, traditionally, the troughs end up in the middle of a mud hole, and I didn't want that. So we did a bit of research and we come up with this product right here. It's a GeoHex, it's a plastic mesh. We put a little pad of gravel down.
They're made out of recyclable plastics, aren't they?
They are, yeah. And we put this, I think it might be 65mm deep mesh, and we just laid it down. They clip together very easily. And we filled it with gravel, and as you can see, they have proven their worth already. So for erosion control, I'm very happy with them and with that product, and I want to do some more of it in fragile areas. It's been really fascinating to see the cattle. They prefer to use these troughs than they do the groundwater. What that does, it gives me the ability to supplement the water. So I can lock them in a paddock, but they have no other water source because they're smaller paddocks now. I can supplement them through the water. It's cheap, it's easy. I'm really wrapped with it.
And it will reduce your costs to running the cattle in the long term.
Exactly. And these little bits of fencing, what we're trying to achieve here is a little bit of land type fencing. If you look down here, this is that same western fence as we spoke about earlier, but only this time it's 4 strands. The ability of the 4 strands, that you get that bottom wire up a little bit so the cattle graze underneath it, and they clean that foliage for you, so you don't have that shorting out problem. So I think that that's going to be fairly successful. But if you look down here, you can sort of see the line where the Pangola grass ends, the soil type changes, it comes into the saltwater influence, that's the marine couch. So what I tend to do is I'll keep the cattle up in these type of areas when it's wet and fragile. These areas are fragile, and I can look after it. So that's that sediment loss again. But what we do have is these off-stream watering points. And these are basically like a miniature hydrant, if you like. Alright, so what we're looking at here, we've got a poly pipeline running down this laneway, a little offshoot here. And inside here is basically a hydrant. So it's its own little check valve and hydrant in here. So I just have these plastic troughs, like you can see in the background here. They're nice and light, I can carry them around in the back of the buggy or the ute or whatever. And I put them anywhere I want. I have a riser. It's simply a matter of pressing these in,
pressure's on,
and water flows. And when the time comes to move the cattle, it's again I simply I stop the flow, empty the trough, and carry it to the next location. And to undo it, there's no taps, no valves, anything like that. It's just simply release, and there we have it. I want to say that with Reef Catchment's help, I have been able to a large extent, and there's going to be more, I have been able to achieve, I guess, those dreams and that vision that I had for the place, and it's only just, those management changes are only just beginning to work. So I want to thank you, Carlos, for the ability to put some of that infrastructure on the ground and let me change the way that I do things, and I look forward to seeing the results of that management change in the years to come.